but I feel this is very important to talk about. And yeah, I hope you all are well. And let's dive into this lovely person right here and see his thoughts and takes on the whole trans people are targeting Christians. And also, if you enjoy, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, which is same name, good old evil tomato.tv on YouTube. And we have today planned two segments. We got the main part of this stream is going to be about debunking Tucker Carlson. But then at the end, for those of you who stick around, we will also have a nice little feel good segment from a dad in Florida. So stay tuned for that and let's get into it. And hold up, everybody. Technical difficulty. Any means to achieve that. And it's quite sad, and many people fall for it. Not as many anymore. Like, I've met some enlightened people. I actually was just walking today to get drinks before the stream, and this neighbor, like really old white dude, stopped me randomly to talk, and yeah, he started saying how he was a Republican and he is disgusted by the current GOP. And it was quite intriguing that, even people who are hardcore Republicans have slowly started to change the way. So, my theory is that these people are on their last leg. The general public believes that, trans people deserve human rights and decency. But these guys are so mad that the world is turned against their bigoted view that they can't handle it. It's the same thing for any civil rights movement. Whenever a minority starts to be broadly accepted by the general population, these guys get all but hurt because, we can't hate you anymore. It's not socially acceptable. So, if we keep up the fight, everybody, one day people like this will not be allowed to spew their bullcrap. But let's get into his next little point. Oh God, we're only 16 seconds in. Oh my God.
Expected to hear. NPR has always, as a matter of editorial policy, completely opposed the civilian ownership of firearms, with the possible exception of the IRS agents. Yet here suddenly was that very same station, National Public Radio, positively urging trans people to buy guns, as many guns as possible.
Yes, because within the last 3 to 5 years, hate crimes in the U.S. have risen dramatically. And yeah, they are scared for their life. I'm trans, and I am scared for my life when I have to go out and deal with the general public because I live in the Midwest and around a lot of smaller towns. Granted, I feel completely safe, but that fear is still there. You still get the dickheads every day saying something, just something because, trans people are always the butt of everyone's joke. And trans women in particular are hate crimed at a high rate throughout the United States. So you wonder why they're seeking means to defend themselves. But yet again, if we don't have access to a way to defend ourselves, it makes us much easier to take out. It's the same level of early propaganda that was used during World War II by the Nazis, and we'll see later on going on through this little video of Tucker's that it mirrors the, anti-Semitic propaganda that was spread during the right before World War II started and the Holocaust. But, we're wrong for going and saying, hey, you guys are on like step 8 of genocide, but you're not going, oh no, you're just being hyperbolic. You're just overreacting because, oh no, you want you want us to treat you like a human being. But moving on, moving on.
Possible, and if necessary, to use them. The world is dangerous, explained one trans gun owner. You have to be dangerous back. And that seems strange to us. Is the United States really a dangerous
Yes.
place
Hold on.
for trans people? Well, West Baltimore is dangerous.
Okay. He is trying to say that, no harm ever comes to trans people, and he's probably going to get onto the talking point of how you have so many privileges being trans. And for one, that is not true. Here's a little known fact for people that don't know. A lot of trans people spend a lot of time in the closet because of fear of coming out, because a lot of trans people lose their family, they lose their friends. Society as a whole can be very aggressively hateful towards you for any reason. I remember after I first came out and started changing clothes and all that, I got refused service at a gas station because who I am. And then if you get into some other areas, you get a lot more violent transphobia, and it's mainly, and they always seem to equivalate trans people to sexual predators, and we all know how closed-minded people like sexual assault is terrible. I do not condone it. It is ugly, but the fact that you compare us to people who sexually hurt people, especially kids, makes the likelihood of a trans person being attacked because you've got it in people with smaller brains that are just sucked into the rabbit hole of Fox News, that all trans people are coming after your kids, when that's not happening. It's how you stoke the fear and the hatred. But he can never listen to any feedback that anyone has, because he only cares about one thing: advancing his agenda.
You could easily get murdered there. But if you're trans in this country, obviously there are many downsides, but there do appear to be some benefits. It's a lot easier to get into Harvard, for example.
Oh, yep. Because Harvard is such a liberal school. All you have to do is be trans to get in. I don't think that's how it works. Granted, the education system is completely broken in America. I will say your main factor to getting into a big school like that is how fat your wallet is, or your mommy and daddy's wallet, because people being smarter costs a lot of money, and it's how you keep the general public stupid. And as long as you have uneducated masses, it makes it easier for propaganda to be spread and widely accepted as the truth.
Definitely easier to get a job at Citibank or in the Biden White House. If you're transgender can so much as fly a kite, the Pentagon will happily make you an F-35 pilot, just so Hollywood can make a movie about it. Identify.
Is that really happening, my dude? Is it? I don't know. I'd like to have a source, Tucker Carlson. Can I get a source, please, my dude? For real? No? Just more plugs? Okay. I didn't think so, but I was just curious, my dude.
Identifying as trans, whatever, again, its downsides, does convey status in this country, which is why so many young people now do.
Oh, okay. He's going to dive into an old theory. This thing that's called, it goes a lot along the lines of the whole the trans medicalist perspective. But there are people that are just identifying as trans because it's a fad. It's a point that was used very quite often in turf talking spaces attacking trans men, and it is these like being trans is a social contagion. Everyone's doing it because it's cool, and it also leads into another very debunked theory called rapid onset gender dysphoria, which has been completely debunked. But keep on using turf talking points. It's great. It gives me something to laugh at every day.
Not a lot of 19-year-olds are pretending to be car mechanics or linemen for a regional power company in eastern Ohio.
I love how he equates someone's job to their gender identity. Like it's a whole part of that whole misogynistic system that America has in place, where if you go for X job, you are X gender. But let's keep it moving.
But plenty of college freshmen do pretend to be members of the opposite sex. And why wouldn't they? The people in charge despise working class whites, but they venerate the...
We gotta have the, little bit of racism in there about how often white people are targeted. I'm sorry, if you are a cis-hat white male, you have a lot of privilege in American society, and it is quite insane how it's always okay. Let me rephrase. You also, if you're a white dude who's straight and Christian, and not trans, obviously, you have so much privilege. And privilege isn't that you have a upper, like you're not better off than anyone else. It just means you don't have to deal with certain disadvantages that someone who is a woman or a person of color or queer or trans would have to deal with. But people like Tucker Carlson are so oppressed because they can't say hateful things anymore, which falls into a whole nother conversation about freedom of speech. And I'm sorry, freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. But, he's always so oppressed. Poor Tucker.
The trans community. People are just responding to incentives. It's rational in a way. But that does not explain the anger that we heard in that NPR segment. Why are some trans people so angry, and why do they seem to be mad?
Because for years you have attacked us, forced us to live in the closet because we cannot be who we are, and a lot of the times you guys try to freaking kill us every day. Like, I remember year ago, it was a couple months ago, we just had a trans woman attacked and killed in the UK. And it happens all around the US. There's also discrimination against where we can get a job, where we can live. And you wonder why some trans people might feel the need to pick up a gun and have a way to defend themselves. I personally do not own any firearms, but as long as you obtain them legally and pass all background and mental checks to have a firearm, you should be able to, because it is your Second Amendment right. But they don't want you to have a gun because then you are unable to defend yourself. It's the same thing that happened during the Civil Rights Movement with the Black Panthers, where they made laws to make it where people of color, people of color cannot own a firearm. It's the same exact thing, and they have the best scapegoat ever. Like, trans people are targeting Christians, so they shouldn't have guns.
Specifically at traditional Christians. We can't think of any trans person who's ever been murdered by a pastor. As far as we know, that has never happened. So it's not an actual threat of violence from Christians that's inspiring some trans people to buy AR-15s. No, it's got to be more fundamental than that, and it is. The trans movement is the mirror.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Just let's take a look at this picture. To the average person, what what does this insinuate to you? It says, you know, trans kids are transgender people are targeting Christian schools, which automatically paints all trans people as the bad guy, as the enemy, as someone who's going to attack you and your loved ones, when that is not the case for 99.9% of trans people. Just because we have one or two bad apples, you think that it means all of us are that bad? You're demonizing a whole community of people because of that. And that is one of the early steps that the Nazis did during the time leading up to World War II. They went and said, hey, look, all the bad stuff that's going on in our country, it's because of X group. It is fascism 101. And more people need to call this out. And I'm sorry, I guess I'll be the one.
Image of Christianity, and therefore its natural enemy. In Christianity, the price of admission is admitting that you're not God. Christians openly concede that they have no real power over anything, and for that matter, very little personal virtue. They will tell you to your face that they are sinful and helpless and basically absurd. They're not embarrassed about any of this, they brag about it. That saved a wretch like me, goes the most famous Christian hymn ever written in English.
Okay. He's going a whole spiel about Christianity. I know a little bit about Christianity, and I also know a bit about psychology because I, went to college. And what he's essentially saying is all people are no inherently evil, and they need some sort of magical being in the sky to tell them how to live their life, and use these fear tactics to keep them brainwashed. Wow, Christianity and fascism have a lot in common. Oh, that's not good.
The trans movement takes the opposite view. Trans ideology claims dominion over nature itself.
No, for one, there is no such thing as trans ideology. It's a made-up term you guys are using on the right to go and demonize a group so you can say, oh, we're not against trans people, we're against trans ideology, which is such BS, my dude. Like, at least come out and say it. At least say, hey, I want to get rid of all trans people. The mask is already off. We know in America that you don't want us to exist. But, let's keep it moving. I've rambled on about that enough.
We can change the identity we were born with, they will tell you with wild-eyed certainty.
Yes, because gender is a social construct. The idea of female and male, men and women, is a societal construct. Sex is biology. Gender has to do how you feel up in your head, my dude, not what parts you are born with. And for most you people, it's the same. For a very small percentage of human beings, it is not. So, is that really that hard to get through your head? No? Okay, I was just checking.
Christians can never agree with this statement because these are powers they believe God alone possesses.
Okay, we're going into the whole Christians object to transness because of, their religion. I just don't get why they're so fixated on us. Like, for real, dude, we just want to live our lives. Leave us the hell alone. And yeah, I just don't get it. It just baffles my head and makes it hurt and makes me sad.
That unwillingness to agree, that failure to acknowledge a trans person's dominion over nature, incites and enrages some in the trans community. People who believe they're God can't stand to be reminded that they're not.
No, it's the fact that you guys are just really annoying with it. You always, like, it seems to be their whole game plan is all about how cruel can we be to this small group that just wants to exist. Like, do, do you want to know what the trans agenda really is? We just want to live our lives and not have to worry about being persecuted for existing, my dude. Like, oh my God. Of course, nothing I say will ever change his mind or someone who constantly listens to what he has to say. I would like to change people's minds. That would be freaking great, but you know, that'll never ever happen because Tucker Carlson and people like him are so brainwashed by, let's be honest, corporate money. Because, okay, if you guys didn't know, like him and then all the array of influencers throughout YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter that believe, like him, you know, trans people are sick, they're coming after your children and all that. A lot of it, they know that it's just a way to get money. Right now, a lot of social media is being taken over by the right because it gets the views. Like, they are paid well, so no matter how good of an argument anyone on the left can come up with, you will never change their mind. So the only way we can combat this as people looking for change, looking to just make society a better place, is to inform the masses. So that's why I enjoy doing this, because we can show them, like, hey, this is wrong, and slowly try to change people's mind is what I hope. But we'll see, we'll see.
So Christianity and transgender orthodoxy are wholly incompatible theologies. They can never be reconciled. They are on a collision course with each other.
Well, maybe you shouldn't take your belief in a magical deity person in the sky. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to call the thing up there, but maybe you should think about it. The Bible, to me, this is my viewpoint, is just a book. It has good morals. It has some stories in it that can be extrapolated to mean certain things, but you shouldn't base every aspect of your life on a text from hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago. Like, this stuff is way before the advent of, you know, the scientific method and us being a enlightened culture. So maybe you need to think about your own belief system before you come demonizing us for existing.
One side is likely to draw blood before the other side. That's what we concluded last week. Yesterday morning, tragically, our fears were confirmed. A self-identified trans person called Audrey Hale committed mass murder at a Christian school in Nashville.
Okay, first I gotta say, very sad. I'm heartbroken by that. But I will point out a tactic the right is using with this. Like, they say the shooter was trans, and then they use their old pronouns and name. And I have a theory on why they do that. It's because, A, in the sphere of their hatred, trans women are viewed a lot worse than trans men, because, you know, that whole war against, you know, being feminine, where, you know, being masculine's good but being feminine's bad. That's why trans women are looked down upon all the time and considered a joke by society. And wow, I just lost my train of thought. That was, yeah, I guess I shouldn't have smoked before this, but okay, yeah, we're going, and, oh yeah, got it. And they're trying to paint the picture of, hey, this was a trans woman this was someone who used to be a guy doing this to it spoke the fear that, oh no, trans women, they're coming for our kids now. At first it was our bathrooms, then it was our sports, and now it's our kids. They're trying to, incite that moral panic and witch hunt to cause more harm to come to the trans community. Because if you look at every other major shooting that we've had this year, there's been a lot. I know there's been a lot, so it's hard to keep up. But most of them, the first thing any politician on the right will say is, "Oh, they were trans." And then if they don't use that line, they always use they were immigrants. They were not white, which is astounding how they're allowed to say that, and nobody says, that's kind of messed up what you just said, but okay, yeah, and the whole society just goes with it. Like right now, right after the shooting, Twitter started circulating with tweets and posts about how all the shooters this year have been trans, when that is not true. Do you know how many mass shooters in the last 50 years have been trans? 3. All the rest are cis, white, straight dudes. And don't even come at me with, oh, I heard this. Okay, you heard this. Did you look into the story? Did you read? That's the problem. But let's move on to see what else what else our good old buddy Tucker Carlson has for us.
Phil. Hale burst into a place called the convent school and executed 3 9-year-olds as well as 3 adults. Police have released body cam footage from the end of the massacre. We're showing you just a small part of it. You can see the rest online if you want. We're not going to show it because it's too awful and sad. But what was almost as sickening to see in a far more subtle and insidious way was the media coverage of yesterday's tragedy. Here's Terry Moran of ABC News, for example, suggesting that Christians were murdered in Tennessee because they infringed on the rights of transgendered people.
Okay, there's this whole debate going on, and they're all right now still in upswarm because the manifesto has not came to light yet. The police are still going through it, and all that. But yes, that could have been, for one, you gotta think, this person, I'm not gonna say their name, just because, yeah, I don't believe in doing that gives them credit, and that's what they, at the end of the day, wanted. But I will say there has been some evidence that came to light, which shows that there was a whole lot of essay going on between older members of the pastors and the kids, and that could be the killer's motivation for doing the terrible things that he did. But we're not going to talk about that because our whole goal here is to demonize trans people and say, look how evil these people are. We should get rid of them.
Why?
Audrey Hale was identified herself as a transgender person at state of Tennessee.
Trans man. Oh, and it's also quite funny. Like right before then, the state of Tennessee passed a whole bunch of laws against trans people. So can you see why this person felt very, oppressed and, in a cracked mental state would have caused them to do this horrific act? But, we can't point the blame at the societal factors that caused all this to happen. It's just, transness. And then they try to go on and say it was because of the hormones they were on. Okay, here's a little fact. This person was only out has only been out publicly for 2 months. Do you know how long it takes to get on hormones? You have to go through You gotta be out living as yourself, lots of counseling, and then maybe if you're lucky and you're in a not hateful state, then you can get you can get a doctor to go and refer you to a specialist doctor that deals with hormone problems, and then you might get prescribed HRT. It's not as quick as they say it is.
Earlier this month passed and the governor signed a bill that banned transgender medical care for minors, as well as a law that prohibited adult entertainment, including male and female impersonators, after a series of drag show controversies in that.
Yes, that bill was very monstrous. And did you know my broadcast would be banned by Tennessee by law? Because, yeah, I'm a biological male who identifies as a woman. You know.
That state.
The state of Tennessee bans the sexual mutilation.
Okay. For one, this is completely false. I have to keep on pointing it out, but so people know, there is no mutilation going on with minors. The only thing a trans kid's really allowed to do is, if they're in a supporting family, they can change their clothes, change their pronouns, and if they're lucky, change their name. There is no medical intervention that happens. So please stop lying, my dude. Just stop lying. You a damn fool.
Children get shot to death in a school. It's cause and effect. That's what ABC.
No, the cause and effect is we have enough guns to supply the world 4 times over in America. And the fact that we have so many guns and not many safeguards in place to make sure crazy people don't get their hands on guns in some of these states, that's what's causing all the school shootings. On part with the culture war you take part in every day, Tucker Carlson, about how the left is so evil and demonic because you want to shove your Christian value, your Christian and whiteness values down our throats.
News is telling you. That's not far from justifying mass murder, but others took the next step. A group called the Trans Resistance Network said that the shooter's death was a complex tragedy that resulted from, quote, anti-trans bias.
Yes, I can see that happening, because if you think about it, it's like a bean dog. You beat a bean dog so bad that it's pushed into a corner. Eventually, it's gonna bite. It's just how animals work, and we can apply that analogy here. This person felt like, for one, I'm not condoning their actions. They are terrible, but they felt so trapped, and probably, if I were to speculate, actually it's been called, we don't know exactly what type of like MI this person had, but they were seeing a doctor and all that. So they were highly emotional, highly distraught, and then you add in all the other societal factors making their life even harder, and this was their escape. They did this terrible act to escape from living, which I do not condone, but I can understand why. And as a society, we need to change the fact that we allow stuff like this to happen, like the fact that all the guns that he used, he bought legally in Tennessee. Because at the same time the trans bill was passed, they also passed a bill to make it even easier to get your hands on a gun. It's kind of messed up how that happens, and I'm just saying, the one thing every shooting this year has in common is they all have access to guns.
The Hershey Chocolate Company's new trans spokesman, meanwhile, someone called Faye Johnstone, posted messages after the shooting complaining about, quote, trans misogyny. In Canada,
Yes, and the whole trans misogyny thing is the whole how trans men are virtually invisible in political discourse. They are, not talked about at all. The big fear is always trans women in sports, in bathrooms, blah, 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 blah. The only time they kind of hint at, trans men is the whole talking about the sexual I cannot speak. They're talking a point about how they're chopping up kids, which that would only happen at the age of 18, and it's for top surgery, which is a major thing most trans men get done because they have gone through the wrong puberty and they having, tatas gives them heavy gender dysphoria, and but that doesn't happen.
Canada, a taxpayer-funded trans rights organization, put out a statement that ignored the murder of the children in Nashville entirely and instead claimed that there has been a, quote, exponential rise in anti-trans violence.
And this is him taking it out of context. A lot of people have came out and said in the past few weeks that, there's a rise of anti-trans hate crimes and also laws. You do know this year, not all these have passed, but 400 plus bills attacking trans people throughout the U.S. Think about that for a minute. How would you feel if existing and every day someone was trying to pass a law to say, hey, you can't live? Do you see why we've come to this, terrible breaking point?
That is a lie. It's a provable lie. And in fact, the opposite is true. We seem to be watching the rise of trans terrorism.
How? Oh yeah, I forgot. Every time there's a trans protest, they try to equate it to being the same as the riots on Jan 6. Every time there's a trans protest, there was one that was the day after the shooting went down, there was protests and all that, and they were deep faking them to look like they were doing the same thing as on Jan 6, and they label it as Antifa, just because it's to scare you.
The man who tried to murder Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh after the repeal of Roe v. Wade, identified as a, quote,
nope, he was not. That is more of your lovely lies. Now, granted, there's speculation around that him and old boy might have been having some spicy get-togethers, is the best way to put it in PC terms. But he was not trans. He identified as cis.
Trans gamer girl, the man who shot up a nightclub in Colorado in this past November and murdered 5 people.
No, he was not. Okay.
Identified as non-binary.
No, he was not non-binary. That was a scapegoat so he could escape the hate crime charge. And his whole family praised him. You guys and people on the right praised this psychopath that went in and shot a bunch of people. And, you said it was because we had it coming because we're grooming kids when that is not happening.
And now this. And there could be more. Antifa has announced this coming Saturday is the, quote, Trans Day of Vengeance.
Oh, yeah. Antifa. Anything, okay, when people like him say Antifa or woke or wokeness, it's a dog whistle for stuff I don't like. People I don't believe should exist. You're seeing it right now all over the country and recently there was this woman wrote a book on wokeness, and she got brought on a show and she couldn't even define what wokeness was. It was so fucking cringe. It was like, oh my god, you hate someone, but you don't even know what the thing you hate is, which proves my point that it's just blind hate because they're brainwashed by these people to, hey, you're different from me, so I should hate you.
Vengeance for what? That's not explained. But the suggestion is there will be violence in Washington this weekend.
Nowhere on here does it say there's going to be violence. You are highly hoping that there would be some violence, so that would give you a news story to spread more propaganda. But really, there is not anything like that going on. But you know, Tucker Carlson has to say some dumb things because, you know, it's what he gets paid for. But moving on.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted about this today because if there's a day of vengeance coming, the rest of us should probably know about it. And for doing so, immediately had her official congressional Twitter account suspended. You're not supposed to talk about any of this.
Oh, yeah. No. What she got suspended for was a tweet that was, hold up, I'm going to pull it up on my phone real quick because I'm a broke bitch and I only got like one monitor. So that monitor's kind of crowded up. So, okay, but there was this tweet by Marjorie Taylor Greene like hours after the shooting. Let's see if we can find it. Let's find it real quick for you. Oh God, these people tweet way too much. Way too much. I'm sorry this is taking so long, everybody. Okay, I can't seem to find it, but the gist of what her tweet was, she was asking how, she was asking how much HRT and psych meds this person was on that caused them to go crazy and shoot up this school, because, you know, HRT makes you violent, right? Well, especially for a trans man, it would be testosterone. So did she secretly tell us, hey, we should ban all men? And it got taken down because, you know, spreading more anti-hate stuff online. But it was quite funny that Twitter actually did something about that.
Apparently. And the authorities in Nashville certainly are not planning to talk about it. They're doing their best not to. Here's the police chief of Nashville explaining that, well, he's happy to talk about the shooter's guns. He's not going to tell you anything about the shooter's motives. Watch.
Because it's still an ongoing investigation as far as I know. And the other reason they don't want to talk about the manifesto or the planning and all that is because it might radicalize more people to do the same. It's a common police tactic that they use. Jeez, you're such a cuck.
So in the manifesto, there's several different writings about other locations. There were locations, there was talks about the school. There was a map of the school, a drawing of how potentially she would enter and the assaults that would take place. It's quite a bit of writing to it. I have not read the entire manifesto. Our team and the FBI has been working on this.
Well, that's interesting. Within what seemed like minutes, we saw pictures of the rifles and the pistol. We now have horrifying body cam footage from within the school. So unsettling, we're not going to show it to you. But somehow we can't see the manifesto in which the killer explains why she killed. Why is that? It's not accidental. Well, you know exactly why it is. Because it would make the obvious undeniable.
No. Oh my God, my brain hurts already. Okay, okay. Let's just continue on to hear what he has to say.
The trans movement is targeting Christians.
Oh yeah, we're totally targeting Christians. This is one person. I love how it's a common tactic that bigoted people will use. If one person of out group does something bad, it means the rest of them are exactly the same. We saw this during the Bush era with, aggression against Middle Eastern people because of what a few bad apples did. Every group has bad apples, has people that are not mentally well. Maybe we need to look into what's really wrong with America and how messed up we are in the head that's causing people to do things like this.
Including with violence. Most Christian leaders in this country don't want to admit that. Admitting it might force them to take deeply unfashionable positions. But it is true, and anyone who's paying attention knows that it's true. And so, like most true things at this point, it is officially suppressed.
Oh yeah, the truth is so suppressed, except by you, Fox News. Oh my God, they're always oppressed. The poor, poor white dude, so oppressed.
Here, for example, is Joe Biden yelping again about how it's all your fault when these tragedies happen because you've got guns at home. This is from yesterday.
We have.
No, no, no. Okay, before we even get into Biden's, until we get into Sleepy Biden's little speech, let's just think about this. We have mentally unwell people. They can get their hands on semi-automatic to automatic weapons. And the all mass shooters' weapons of choice is the AR-15. And the New York Post, I think it's New York Times or like New York Post, just put out an article about this, about how much damage a AR bullet does to the body compared to a bullet fired from a handgun. It decimates the body because of the velocity that it hits with, and it destroys them internally. That's why the shooter's gun of choice is always, in all these cases, the AR-15, because it's the most effective and most deadly thing out there. So I do believe there needs to be some regulation in weapons that are used in war.
To do more to stop gun violence. It's ripping our communities apart, ripping the soul of this nation, ripping at the very soul of the nation. And we have to do more to protect our schools so they aren't turned into prisons. You know, the shooter in this situation reportedly had 2 assault weapons and a pistol, 2 AK-47. So I call on...
It was not an AK-47, it was an AR-15, but, we can't expect Biden to know everything. He's too busy trying to stay away. Like, to let you know, yeah. I only vote Democrat because they are the they are the group that doesn't want to see me dead. So let's be clear, I'm not a big Biden fan. Like, we can do so much better, Democratic Party.
Congress again to pass my assault weapons ban.
So we're going to prevent you from learning why the shooter did it, and we don't have to guess because she wrote a whole manifesto about why she...
Do you know most of these crazy people that write these manifestos, how incoherent they are, my dude? Like, they're probably having a hard time getting through all the jumbled writings and all that. Like, this person was clearly mentally unwell, and oh my God, they so freaking had such a great manifesto, right? Oh, jeez. Okay. And, okay, let's get back into it.
She did it. And we know that she did that because she told
Oh,
a friend
and
of hers
welcome
on
in the
Instagram
chat.
that she did it. But we can't see it. We can only talk about the guns. can't know what kind of drugs she was taking, what kind of hormones or SSRIs or...
Oh yeah, because HRT hormones cause this to happen. If that's the case, wouldn't the rate of this happening be even higher instead of there just being 3 trans shooters in the last 50 years? I'm just saying.
Benzodiazepines, we can only guess. We can only talk about the guns. Pass my assault weapons ban. That'll fix the problem. But Joe Biden is lying about that. He knows that he's lying, and you know that he's lying. Yesterday's massacre did not happen because of lax gun laws. Yesterday's massacre happened because of a deranged and demonic ideology that is infecting this country with the encouragement of people like Joe Biden. Let's start by being honest about that. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
Okay. We thank you all for making it. We got through the whole Tucker Carlson segment. So I'm gonna take a quick break. I have to use the bathroom and get my mind right. And we're gonna be doing one more segment this stream, but this one's a wholesome segment. This one is going to be about there's a dad in Florida trying to fight for the right of his kid to have the health care that they need and deserve. So as soon as we are back, we will get into that segment, and I'll see you guys in a bit.